This video is about something really, really important, and it is to be able to stand up for yourself, be able to say no, because this derived from a couple of experiences that I've endured in my life where I didn't take action. For example, it all started with the other day, 2 days ago actually. I was like going to meet my friend, and then I see these co-workers, like these guys standing at these stands, right? And they're like promoting their product. And in this case, it was like a somewhat like a glass company, optic company, whatever. There's like two guys standing there, a man and a woman, right? They're standing behind this desk, and there's like water bottles, balloons, and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, let me just go over there and get like one of those water bottles. I probably have to just receive this brochure that they're giving me, whatever manual, and then that's it. Because at where I'm at, sometimes it happens like all these companies are giving free stuff out, right? So I was like, okay, this is probably one of those days as well. And then I go there, I go to that stand, go to these two lovely people standing behind the stand, and then I'm like grabbing one water bottle. I'm like, hey, can I get a? Yeah, I'm just not even grabbing it, but I'm like, hey, can I take one of the water bottles? And then I grab it and I start to joke around a little bit. And then they're like, no, no, you cannot. You cannot just grab it. You cannot get all this. You need to sign up, and you need to sign up for this. And I was like, what? Really? Okay, that's rare. It happens. And then then I'm like talking, and then in Denmark people are not the most social. So I'm like talking, I'm joking around and stuff like that, and then the guy is not speaking anything. He's just, I can see that he's a kind guy, smiling, and then he gives me a balloon. All of a sudden, he gives me like a balloon in my hand. I'm like, what? And then I can see with the woman, I can see there's somewhat like a hostile behavior. I can see there's something dodgy, when I look at her, like when I'm reading her energy. And obviously, like, you can come far with energies, but you still also have to be a bit, how can I say, critical around it. But I could feel, I'm very sensitive, so I can feel there's something wrong there, right? And then what happens, like, and then the lady's like, yeah, you need to sign up. And then there's a kid like next to me, and then, or behind me, whatever, and then kid want a balloon, and then she grabs the balloon out of my hand. And then I freeze, immediately I freeze. I was like, what the fuck, like, whoa. And I was like, whoa, what is happening? And then the guy is not saying anything. The woman, she kind of like, I can feel that she kind of like she kind of know that she did something wrong, like just taking it out of my hand and giving it to a child, and even saying to me like, hey, you're a grown up man, you don't need the balloon, but that's basically taking it out of my hand without asking. That is fucked, right? And then I could see that she felt it, that she did something wrong, but I was frozen. So I was like, basically, I tried to sign up for this, but I didn't end up signing up for it. I couldn't, because I was so frustrated. I was so irritated. I was so triggered, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was caught off guard, right? And then instead of like tapping into awareness, like take a big breath in and breathe out, and then like, whoa, okay, what is happening, right? I just went, and then I did the second big thing is that I started to journal about it, and then I knew, okay, I actually should have taken action. In real case, what would I have done? What should I have done? The thing I should have done was basically go, stay there and then tell that lady, hey, that is not a good behavior. Like, you could have at least asked, but taking it out of my hand like that is not a good behavior. You know it. You are in customer service, and it's really, really bad behavior. So either you apologize right now, or I'm gonna complain about this incident. Something along that. Then I could feel much better. I would have felt so much better. And it's always about the feeling that you have at the end. What feeling is it that you have at the end? Because I researched it more and did some more reflection, and then with this one, I clearly was triggered. And sometimes people can say, or your egoic mind could say that, hey, just let go. It's not a big deal. But then that is the devil in disguise. Because that is just the easy way to just swipe it under the carpet. Suppress it. But then by confronting it straight off and reacting on it, executing on what comes up in a respectful manner, then you are healing, and that is where the true healing comes from. But let's say that she was like, hey, I'm sorry, then okay, it's all right, right? But, this, even though you could feel her, that she had a lot of pain doing this, or she was not raised in the right way, or whatever, it still feels better, and it still feels as the righteous thing, and it also helps her to say, like, hey, the thing you did with the balloon is messed up. It's not good. It's not a good behavior. At least ask, right? So that is also that is what I wanted to share. So every time when you're in this freeze zone, like you're freezing. For example, somebody, yells at you, even though you haven't really done anything wrong, or somebody, I don't know, takes your drink at the bar, whatever. I don't drink, but anyway, like, it's a thought example. Then say like, hey, listen, like, don't take my drink, don't take my beverage. This is mine. I don't want you to take it. If, or let's say that you have your boss. It also happened years and years past when I was in corporate, like when I was doing like a smaller mistake, and then my boss is like, hey, don't, what the fuck are you doing? This is not the way to treat our suppliers, blah, blah, blah. And then the tone was more harsh than necessary. And then I should have said to that guy, like, hey, boss, like, I understand, but don't talk to me like this. We can talk in a more respectful manner. I didn't do this on purpose, but I don't accept that you talk to me like that. I don't accept that, period. So it's really, really important to put some boundaries. But again, like, I went even deeper, with this, because I was fed up with this, like freezing, because I thought I could just let go, and letting go was just my ego just trying to go through it, just skipping the whole incident by telling to me, like, saying to me, like, telling me, like, hey, just let go, because it's the easy way. But it's a hard way. In real life, it's a hard way, because when you're skipping experience like this, then it will sit inside of you. It will sit inside of you, and it will come up when you expect it the least, right? And you will hate yourself, because this is the sign for you to shine. So basically, that balloon incident, that was my chance for shining. But at the end of the day, I got this realization, I got this awareness, and even said to myself, if I see that woman again, I will go up to her and then just express this to her. So when you're doing this, when you're facing these conflicts, it's a sign of self-love. But obviously, everything has to be kept. You cannot. So in some situation, it's just better just to let go. Let's say that you meet like a crazy guy, and then the crazy guy says something to you, and then you just know, okay, there's nothing really coming out of it. This guy is just beyond, like, it might even be dangerous to confront him, Then you just like, okay, let's go, let me just go my way. So yes, I went even deeper. And I found out that the reason why I had, that I have these freezing moments where I just can't react is due to my father. That my father yelled at me, sometimes unjustified. It was unjustified, the times when he yelled at me. For example, there was one day where I lost my job, and then he just screamed and yelled at me, and even was physical against me, because I lost the job. And at that time, I was 15. In this particular event, I was 15, and I was like, fuck, I was shocked, because he started to hit me with these bricks that you used to fire up your grill. Like, he took those bricks, these white bricks, and then smashed it on my shoulder, my back, and I was shocked. And then he started to hunt me down with this metal stick. I was like, how the fuck? Sometimes I'm like, how did I make it out alive? In a way, but it was brutal. So my dad was not the best father for me, because he was traumatized, severely traumatized himself. And so he used to scream, yell at me. Every time he did that, I would freeze. I was like, oh, little Jin, small Jin, young Jin, he would just freeze. This inner child Jin, he would just, freeze. And then that was my way to survive, because it was also like the nervous system way to survive, to just make you build, to just make yourself invisible, and then survive and go about the day, right? So I found out that I need to be more awake, So when things like this happens, I need to be more awake. There was also like one success story around it was like, But I was going around, and then this angry guy comes up to me, and he's like threatening me, and he's like, "Hey, you talked to somebody I know. You, why did you do that?" I was like, "How do you know it's me? And how can you even be sure?" I was like, "Yeah, it is you. It is you." I was like, "How? You know, like, do we have a proof, whatever?" And then he's like, "It's you. And next time you do it, I'm gonna smash all of your teeth out of your mouth." I was like, "Wow, wow!" And then I got shocked again. I got into this frozen state again, you know. And it didn't help that the guy I had next to me, he didn't do shit. He's not even my friend anymore, but he just hid himself, like. And then I know, okay, I got that from the experience. This is not a real friend, you know. At least, like, come, you know, I would never really run away, you know, because it's just one guy in broad daylight, and then he comes up to me and basically threatens me. So at that time, in this incident, I just went home, and then I was like reflecting, and then I got advice from my friends, and then one of them, yeah, both of them joined me, and then they're like really good friends, and then we went and found this guy. Actually, we found this guy because I happen to know where he works, and I was pissed off. I was really pissed off because this is a threat. This is a threat. So I went to his working place, and then he wasn't there, and the employees tried to like call up for him, and then I was like, no, no, no. And then they kind of know what was going to happen, you know. If I Yeah, I said to them, I'm gonna call the police or something like that. I don't know what. I don't, maybe I even didn't go that way, but I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna let go of this. And then they kind of like put him on FaceTime, and then he was like he was a different person. He was like he was quite apologetic, and I was like, okay, I accept that, you know. So that was a success story. And then the feeling I had after my confrontation with this guy was like really nice, you know. But then, you know, we are like human beings, right? So sometimes we just freeze, and I'm just happy that I worked a good amount. I did the inner work around it, and this experience lately also made me execute some actions and find out, okay, I can actually, you know, react on it instead of freezing all the time, you know. Freezing, and then like, oh, then it would sit inside of my soul again, and I would be like, why didn't I do anything about it? Why did I just accept this? You know, now I'm like much more, you know, setting my boundaries, giving, you know, if people says something to me, I will, and if it's like violating me and who I am, I'm ready to like push back, you know. So yeah, so it is important to set boundaries, important to be in awareness, and important to react, you know, like, just, if somebody's like pissing you off, it's all right, you know, to tell them like, hey, you're pissing me off, stop with that, you know. Or, you're crossing my boundaries, you're crossing my limits. I heard another story about one guy where his bosses, like co-workers, tried to tease him, you know, to a degree where it was beyond teasing actually. And then he was like, hey, don't go that way, don't cross that line, you know. And then they respected him, you know. Because the dangerous thing is, again, like I said previously, is like to think that you are letting go. But then if you are like that, then they, you know, in this situation, they might continue teasing you, and then you're just a scapegoat, right? And in my situation, I will just continue to accept all these, yeah, unfair acts towards me and my identity, right? So yeah, it's important to step up for yourself, because that is self-love, and if you don't do it, it's kind of like self-hate. It can indulge self-hatred within you. So step up for yourself. Come on, let's do this.